Okay, so good morning and welcome to the Employability Skills Series, where we explore the top skills employers are looking for in candidates. Each week, we will cover a different topic with thoughts and insights from professionals in a variety of industries. I am your host, Megan Morrow, Associate Director of Business Careers, and I am flying solo today. And we are going to be talking about leadership and leading by examples. So, the idea of leadership is not just when I think about leadership, and I think sometimes that we think about people who are in positions of, management or up higher in the organization, which that is true, that is very applicable, but also just leading in the position that you are in. We all have the opportunity to be a leader in any of our situations that we can be in, whether it be in the classroom or whether it is, in a, sorry, it's still admitting people, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's in our job, whether it is, in our sports, in our teams, in our organizations, we have the opportunity to step into leadership roles. And when you are in a leadership role, it doesn't mean that you always have to be the one that is leading as well. They can always be something that depending on the situation. But when I think about leadership, so a little background on me. My master's is in industrial, organizational, and leadership psychology. So I studied a lot about organizational culture, workplace, the environment, and a lot about leadership. And one of the great things that I was studying that I thought, hey, if I'm going to go for my PhD, it's definitely going to be in transformational leadership. So you have transactional leadership versus transformational leadership, and kind of the difference with that. So when you think about a leader, think about if you've ever had a job, where somebody was in charge of you, right? They're your supervisor or your boss, or your manager, whatever title you kind of give them. But if you give that title as leader, it's a completely different connotation. It's leading, it's not just like demanding that people do things for you. So when I think of a good leader, I think of someone who purposely does things with authenticity, who are genuine. They wouldn't ask anything of their employees that they themselves were unwilling to do. So you think about, I know there's a cartoon, and again, if I'd known I was going to be doing this alone, I would have come up with, there's a really cool cartoon, and it shows like a boss, and it shows someone like sitting on, like on the top of the wagon, and then the workers are down, and they're the ones pulling the wagon, and the boss is up, kind of going, hey, faster, faster, go, go, go. But then a leader is someone who's down on the ground with his employees, his or her employees, and they're pulling the load together. So I think about that as a leader, and that is leading by example. So when I think about transformational leadership versus transactional, so transactional is really just, get the job done, just do what you're supposed to do. You're just kind of micromanaging, and you're just kind of giving orders. I've worked for something like this. If you've taken my class, you've heard me talk about a previous employer where there was a lot of micromanaging. There was no freedom. There was no autonomy. There was, if anything screwed up, I got the blame for everything. But if I did anything good, he took the credit. That is very transactional. There was no buy-in on my part, nor the rest of the staff. He was literally just barking orders and not leading by example. And a great example I have of this is he was adamant that we were a team. So this was a school for troubled youth that were in trouble with the law. And, so sometimes there would be a lot of after hours things because the nature of the students we were working with, and they would maybe get in trouble with the law. And so we'd be there to assist with them. There was one time there was a fight right after we had dismissed. So the students had all left. The rest of us were kind of packing up and getting ready to leave as well. There was a fight. So the one student came back in, of course, the police were called, and the probation officers were called and everything. And the executive director of this program, supposedly our leader, he walked by us, looked at all of us and said, wow, have fun with that, and walked out the door. Did not stay, did not ask if we needed anything, did not, wasn't a team member at all. But if that had happened and he was dealing with something and any of us tried to leave, we would have gotten written up. no, you need to stay. This is the team. We're all in this together. So it is very much a do as I say, not as I do. And that was a leader or a manager, I can't even call him a leader. That was a leader. I keep saying it wrong. Sorry. Because I'm in the leadership mind frame. That was a manager that was not worthy of followership. So think about that. A leader who is worthy of followership gets the buy-in from his or her employees, and they want to follow him or her because it's genuine, because it's authentic. When you see someone walking the walk and talking the talk, you know that they're the real deal. And that is what transformational leadership is really all about, is leading by example, not asking your employees to do something you yourself aren't willing to do, being there in the trenches with your employees, not just barking orders, but being also authentic, making sure that everyone is included, which is another piece of transformational leadership, which is inclusivity. Everybody has a voice. Everybody has a right to be heard. Everybody is part of the organization, and everybody is in it together versus just, one or two people's voices being heard. When you feel, because think about that, if you're in a club or an organization or a job or a class, and you feel like your voice is just not heard, you're just being kind of dragged through but without any type of say in it's hard to feel connected to that job. It's hard to feel connected to your responsibilities. It's hard to feel connected to the organization. But when you have a leader who gives you the autonomy, gives you the freedom to express yourself, free of retaliation too. That's another big thing. You have to be able to know that you can say what you need to say, whether it's a grievance or a difference of opinion or anything like that. You have to feel free that you yourself can speak up without retribution or without any type of retaliation. And so with transformational leadership, it's a leader who genuinely listens, who genuinely does the things that they're asking you to do. So like if I was teaching you guys in class and I'm, your leader, I'm leading the class and I have a no technology policy. You cannot be on your cell phones. But then during class, I'm texting on my phone, but then you get in trouble for texting on your phone. That's not leading by example. I'm saying that I can do it. You can't do it. And that is not really good transformational leadership. That's not genuine or authentic. So when I think about leading, by example, is really what is it that you want your employees to do? And when you figure that out, then you know how to behave. So if you are going into, you guys are going into the workforce, some of you maybe for the first time in either internships or, the professional world versus just a part-time job. When you think about some of the part-time jobs with maybe in high school or summer gigs or something like that, you're going to have a lot more transactional leadership than you're going to have transformational. But when you get into your career, think about how you yourself like to be supervised. How would you like someone to, kind of oversee the work that you do? And then that's what you're going to look for in a leader of the organization. Or when you step into leadership roles yourself, whether you're going to be an entrepreneur and own your own business, or whether you're going to step into some, director position or CEO or CFO or something like that, when you are, over other people, how do you yourself like to be praised? How do you yourself like to be maybe, I don't want to say disciplined, we're not children, but, consequenced or brought up on your awareness, maybe if you're kind of falling a little short of your expectations. And then that's how you want to treat other people. It really is that golden rule of treat others how you yourself would like to be treated. And I think about that all the time. I think about that even when my parenting. I have two little boys. If you don't know, there's 10 and 17, so I guess not so little anymore. But I try to, if I tell them that they can't, sit in front of the TV and eat dinner, I'm not going to sit in front of the TV and eat dinner. If I tell them that they have to eat healthy and, be active, then I need to eat healthy and be active. I can't just bark orders as like a tyrant, if you will. It's definitely not a do as I say, not as I do. So excuse me. It usually goes so much better when I have someone to interact with. So it's kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. But I really love the idea of this transformational leadership. And I told you, I did a lot of study on it. And so when I think about this too, I think about my own situation. I feel like I work for a great organization and my direct supervisor is very gracious with her respect and her trust, knowing that if she tells me to do my job, I'm doing my job. I don't need to report. I don't have to like check in. I don't have to like run things by her. She knows that I'm doing what I'm doing because I'm invested, because I feel like my voice is heard. I feel like I'm included in the team. I don't feel like I'm just a peon or a minion that's just like a pawn being moved in a chess game. And when you find an organization where you have that kind of freedom and autonomy, you genuinely can throw yourself into your work and do it very, very well. And that is great for organizations, because if my boss had to worry about everybody in her team doing their job, she would never have an opportunity to do her job. She would constantly be monitoring and checking in and micromanaging and everything, and then nothing would get done. But she has a team that she can trust, and she knows that even if we're not physically in our office, or we're not, that we're working and we're doing good things. That is a leader that you want to follow. And so when you start when you start interviewing for jobs and internships, be thinking about that. In the interview, they're going to ask you questions like, why do you want to work here? Why should we hire you? And they're always going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? And in that instance, that would be a great opportunity for you to ask, what is the workplace culture like? If they haven't discussed that yet in the interview so far, maybe you could ask, what, how does leadership interact with the lower, the workers or the employees, or however you want to say it. Try to find ways to figure out what is it like, there. I have another story. I have another micromanager that I worked for, and it was a lockup facility. It was a 30-bed level 6 risk program for juvenile females. So, and I was one of the teachers there, and I taught half of the day, and then I had a colleague, she taught half the day, and we were like in one of those portable classrooms. We were there all day long with these students. So there was a girls' facility and there was a boys' facility. And so the director of the education had to go back and forth between the two facilities. So she started her day at the boys' facility, guaranteed every day, like, because our day was 7 to 3. I mean, like at 7:01, that phone would ring in our classroom, and the students were coming in about 7:30. And at 7:01, that phone would ring. And of course, I'd answer it, and I would try to be as professional as possible, like, good morning, Jerry, and she would, I just called, and she would make up reasons, and it was never valid. Like, it was like, oh, did you sharpen the pencils? Something just crazy. And I would say, yes, Jerry, we're here. Oh, no, that's not why I'm calling. I'm not checking in on you. I'm not checking in on you. When clearly she was checking in on us, right? It makes sense. I mean, it was every single day. If she started her day at the girls' facility, she would call the boys' facility and do the same thing to the teachers over there. And then same at 3:00. If she wasn't there at 3, she would call like right at like 2:58, 2:59, just to make sure that we were still there. Now, we never gave her any reason to think that. We didn't skip out. I mean, we were responsible for 30 inmates. We were behind razor wire with guards. I mean, where are we gonna go? There's no way. It's not like we could just like not be there, because trust me, the guards would have to be responsible for the inmates, and then they, that wouldn't go over. So it really it became more of a chore. We ourselves felt like we were, imprisoned, instead of being the teachers and being part of the staff there. We felt like we were also inmates, just because of that constant, stress and pressure. And it's hard to respect somebody like that. And so I knew from a young age, in my career, my young career, that I couldn't work for somebody like that. I couldn't work for somebody who just was kind of always like, it didn't feel like there was any trust. So when you're looking for jobs, and you're out there and you're interviewing and you're talking to employers, keep that in mind. What is the leadership structure like? Is that something that you like? Or maybe you are someone who likes just to be told what to do, and you don't want to have to, step out and come up with things on your own. That's perfectly fine too. Maybe you would thrive better in a position where there is a little bit more structure. But if you're someone who likes to have the autonomy and the freedom to do the things that you want and try new things and just see if it works, tweak this or tweak that or go here, keep that in mind too, as well. when you're interviewing and you're talking to people. What is that leadership structure like? What is that workplace culture like? You know, is there flex time? Do you have the autonomy to kind of come and go, or do you have to be there, you know, 8 to 5 or whatever the hours are? So that's also something to consider. It's not just the job, it's not just the paycheck. There's a lot that goes into considering a job when you do go. And for me, it's leadership. I need to know that I have a good team that I can follow and that they're worthy of my followership. Because think about that too. You know, if I work for someone who I respect and they're worthy of followership, you know, when extra tasks come down the line and extra duties and maybe after hours things or maybe even weekend things, you know, it's not so hard. You're like, yeah, sure, I'm here for you. You know, you've been here for me and doing all these wonderful things for me. Absolutely, I can be here for you and do them for you. And if organizations could understand this more and maybe help train their leaders in more the transformational side versus the transactional side, I think that they would get a lot more bang for their buck. Now, this is just my personal opinion, just from my research and my studies and my own personal opinion. I really do feel like it is just, it would benefit companies and it will benefit you as a leader when you step into those leadership roles to know that you have a team that is as invested in your project or in your company or in your services or whatever it is that you go into doing as you are. Then you don't have to lay awake at night and be checking GPS. You know, like for another example, a friend of mine, he owns an AC company. And at one point they had 30 different vehicles. And so it was really big. And he says sometimes he'd lay awake at night just looking at the GPSs and just checking, like, where are these vans going? Is everybody doing what they're supposed to be doing? It was very, very transactional. But it also goes to show that he did not have a team that he trusted. And that is not good either. You know, sometimes you have to, you know, kind of clean house if you have people that you don't trust. Now, he was valid in not trusting some of them because they were taking his company vehicles and maybe going out to happy hour, wearing, you know, their logoed shirts and driving their, you know, logoed vehicles and then, you know, going out drinking. That's not good. Not good at all. So he had good reason to, but then as a leader, he would need to step in and start to say, well, then you're no longer really fitting into the culture that we're trying to build here. Because can you imagine staying awake at night, 2, 3 in the morning, you know, tracking GPS locations and tracking time cards and stuff because you can't trust your employees? So that took away from him, his health, his family. You know, he was stressed out all the time. He told me at one point he reached over 350 pounds just from stress. He actually developed like a cyst on the back of his neck just from stress, from like rubbing, you know, from being stressed out. It's not good. It's not good at all. So, but also too, leadership, attitude reflects leadership. So he had to take a step back and say, okay, you know, well, maybe I'm not the best leader for this position. I don't know if he did that or not. That was a long time ago, but I remember him telling me that story and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine having a team that I could not trust. So, but attitude does reflect leadership. So you have to think about that too, as well. Um, so I think I've kind of exhausted. This is not exactly how I was hoping that this one would go, but I'm hoping that I gave you guys some good snippets on leadership and leading by example and what to look for in your future leaders, and also some things that you guys can consider as well as you step into leadership roles. Always think about what you are trying to accomplish. What is the end goal? And if you want your team to work independently and thrive, you know, because if you're so busy over here, we're having to watch everything they do and make sure that everybody's doing it right, like a bunch of, you know, like I would think like a kindergarten teacher would have to make sure that everybody's, you know, coloring in the lines and everybody's playing fair and sharing, you know, then you can't be over here doing the things that you should be doing. You'd be working in your business all the time and not on your business. And you want to be working on your business. And you can only do that if you have a team that you trust that is, again, as invested as you are, that loves the business as much as you do. So you can sleep at night. You're not up at 3 o'clock in the morning, rubbing yourself into an oblivion and gaining so much weight because you're just so stressed out. But instead, you can sleep peacefully knowing that you have a good team that is there for you and that is working with you, and not working against you and not, you know, stealing from you. And when I say stealing, I mean like time. You know, when you've got employees that you don't trust, they're just not doing anything. Again, that's not good for the company. So if organizations take the time to really cultivate that leadership in their leaders and really help them grow and develop and learn. They'll become better leaders, which will therefore become better employees, and better employees are more productive. More productive means more profit for the company, which means the profit, the company grows. So it is literally win-win if you think about it. So I think that's all I have for you. Lead by example, walk the walk, never, live your life with do as I say, not as I do. You should always, want people to follow you in what you're doing and not just what you're saying, which also kind of goes hand in hand. Like, I personally believe, like, if you don't want people to know about something, then you just shouldn't do it, live your life in a way that it would be okay if anybody took a peek in and there's nothing that you'd be like, oh no, my boss is here. Now I have to actually work, because that's what makes that micromanaging culture continue to thrive. So I hope you learned something. I'm sorry that our guest couldn't be here, but if you have any questions or you want to learn anything more about transformational leadership, feel free to reach out to me. If not, thank you so much for coming and spending some time with me today as we talk about leadership and leading by example. So thank you, everybody.